We're back for episode 2 of a 4-part series that we started last week. Harsha, how are you?
I'm good, Satish. Thank you. How are you?
Good, good. So we started this 4-part conversation around cybersecurity assessment and preparation. And last week we looked at the first episode, which is around sensors, and we looked at hardware and inventory, right? Um,
Yes.
and how important it is to make sure you have a detailed inventory of everything you own so you can make sure what's outdated, what needs to be updated, things like that. And we had some really good feedback from people around how they've forgotten to even remove vendors from their admin panels because
Yes.
they never did an inventory test. So that was great. Today we're going to talk about traffic, not human traffic in a building,
Yes.
but system traffic. So let's talk about what is traffic baselining.
Yes. So network traffic baselining, as you say, is not about human traffic, but your network traffic, your signals. So it's also a very important part when it comes to building your cybersecurity strategy to understand what is network traffic baselining and why it is important. So just to give a little bit background on network traffic baselining, it's all about what goes in and out of your building network. So what kind of protocol usage or network utilization or signals, what is your peak network utilization or your average utilization at a particular time. This all combines and form your network traffic baselining.
Give me an example.
So let's say during office hours, vendors are accessing your systems, your employees are accessing your HVAC unit or your elevator to send commands to change the parameter settings. And then you see a lot of traffic, elevator on access control, that also sends signals to your building systems and increases the network traffic on your network. Now after office hours, lights are turned off, you don't see much traffic on access control and on elevators. So you see a drop in terms of traffic on your network.
Right.
All these parameters like your load, what kind of protocol usage is there in your network, who all accesses your network, all these combine and help you understand what your network traffic looks like. And this is the starting point to baseline your network.
So how can something be baselined when it's a live environment? You know, when you think about baseline, the ideal world is like brand new building, nothing going on, you know, first week, first few weeks, that's your baseline. And then, you know, once tenants start to move in and people start getting occupied, there's an increase in baseline. But in a building that's already up and running, they've been around for, you know, 20, 30 years, how do you establish baseline in a live environment?
Yes. So there are various network monitoring tools available that help you to baseline. And ideally, baseline should be taken as a continuous exercise. Not every month, not quarterly, but once a year, at least, or 2 times a year. Because like you said, tenants move in, move out of buildings. You see a change in traffic, or if even is happening, you see a change in traffic. So ideally, it should be a continuous practice. And there are various network monitoring tools available to baseline your network.
Right.
So reach out to a consultant who can help you establish the network baselining. Capture the network parameters that we talked about, like normal network utilization, protocol usage, what is the utilization during peak hours or during off-peak hours. Consolidate all these parameters and come up with a baseline. But unlike IT, OT networks doesn't vary much. So it's very easy to identify normal operational traffic in OT network or in a smart building.
Right, because we're not looking at, you know, your standard internet connection, but somebody's, you know, downloading a bunch of crazy stuff in an office versus what data you're seeing from OT, right?
Yes.
So let's segue that into identifying malicious, you know, peaks or even valleys. Like, you know, what do they mean to us?
Yes. So, well, the reason we do a network baselining is to identify suspicious activity. So consider this, like each time you visit a health clinic, the doctor takes your health parameters to check anything out of ordinary, like your temperature, BP, and all these readings. So the same process applies for understanding the health and security of your network.
Right.
So with baselining, like you know what IPs are allowed to access your network. And during this COVID-19 time, we have seen a lot of remote activities. Vendors are accessing your network remotely. So by this exercise, you'll know that a simple basic IP scan, that which outside IPs are generally accessing your network.
Hmm.
So you'll know that these are the allowed IPs. Now, if you see an unknown IP address is trying to access your network, you look into it because
Right.
it might. The second thing is balancing your network traffic. And this is really a critical parameter. So by balancing, we say your internal traffic compared to your external traffic.
Right.
So you need to examine the average load on your server and your key business applications, like your HVAC, your access control application, so that you balance the network traffic,
Right.
avoid any downtime. Then it's also important to understand peak and normal conditions. So especially when hackers, they launch any attack, they are very persistent in sending the traffic. So they mimic normal traffic conditions, but
Mm, yeah.
all this causes additional trail on your network.
Right.
When you know what your peak traffic looks like or what your off-peak traffic looks like, and if you see any change in these parameters, there's an issue.
Right. And when you have a good baseline that's continuously being monitored based on tenant shifts, based on building infrastructure improvement, maybe even something as simple as adding on new inventory, new hardware, and
Yes.
new access to new suppliers. So let's talk about suppliers for a second, because can you isolate supplier traffic versus building traffic to see if somebody's logging in and poking around when they shouldn't be?
So when you say supply traffic, so we are talking about the traffic in your OT environment.
Right.
So your HVAC traffic, your elevator, your access control. And yes, like you said, supplier traffic. Your vendors are accessing remote. So you need, so that falls under your external traffic.
Okay.
Exercise, yes, you can isolate your vendor traffic and the traffic that's internal to your building.
Perfect. And it seems to sort of bridge both so you can monitor not only your, peak and off peak, but also when vendors are paying attention.
Yes. And then you can also white label the IPs so that if any unknown IP exists, so you know that there's a suspicious activity. Or you can double check, is the vendor accessing from a new place, or they have moved to a new office, they have got a new IP address.
Incredible, incredible. Parting thoughts as we close off the traffic episode?
So uh, uh, one thing, baseline your readings, baseline your network traffic. That's the first step to spot any suspicious activity in your network.
And if you haven't figured out how to do it, or if you want to experiment with it, or if you need some help in just figuring out what does your baseline look like, what does your peak time and off peak time, or even if you're not worried about internal traffic, but you want to start monitoring your supplier or vendor traffic, get in touch with KTech Labs. We're here to support, we're here to help. We can give you the strategy, we can give you the blueprint, and we can also get you set up for the proper baseline. Harsha, episode 2 in the books.
Yes.
We'll see you guys for episode 3, where we talk about, now that you know about hardware and you know about traffic, what are some of the vulnerabilities to look for when you connect these two. And then we're going to end it all off with a nice blueprint idea around vendor management to protect yourself from third-party hardware and software that's in your ecosystem.
Yes.
Sounds good. We'll be back. Thanks, Harsha.
Thank you. Bye.